This is a pick a pile reading on messages from your underworld. So we're going to concentrate on anything that may be hiding in your underworld, anything hiding within your unconscious, any messages from any underworld spirits you might be connected to, shadow totems, inner child, inner adolescent, different aspects of shadow self, shadow fragments, ancestral fragments, things of that nature. So definitely tune in, choose a pile that resonates. So we have here, starting in the beginning, pile 1, or the butterfly, which is a shadow totem representing that pile. Pile 2, or the firefly. The firefly is a shadow totem representing this pile. Or pile 3, and the earthworm. And the earthworm is the shadow totem representing pile 3. So go ahead and take a minute, tune in, and I'm going to get started with pile 1. Okay, those of you that chose pile 1, or the butterfly, let's get into your reading. Okay, pile 1. So we have here, starting from top to bottom, left to right, the Witch's Familiar Oracle card, Trustworthy, Companion, Friendship. We have the Revenge card, or number 23. By the way, number 23 may be significant, or the number 5. We'll get into that in a minute. We have here the Shadow image. This does not have a set word or message per se, and I'm going to channel what I'm getting from that in a minute. Of course, there's the Butterfly Shadow Totem. We have here the Scorn card from the Twin Flame Shadows Oracle. And then we have here the Emperor, or Baal, okay? The Ten of Pentacles, or Barbados. And we have the Empress in reverse, or Grimoire, okay? So right away, I feel like a lot of you that chose this pile are my feminine pile, okay? You don't have to be, okay? But I am getting kind of this energy. I'm hearing that phrase, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, okay? In your underworld, you are playing out this huge revenge game over and over again. I'm seeing images of a woman in battle wearing armor and a sword and just going through slaughtering everybody. Everybody that ever hurt her, everybody that ever oppressed her, everybody that ever took advantage of her, violated her, stole from her, murdered her, like victimized her in some kind of way. And what's interesting is there's this energy of, like, it's almost like there's a loop. It's like these are shadow aspects. Because I'm almost getting like these women right here are different aspects of you from different lifetimes or different loops that you've created within your unconscious. And what I mean by that is it's almost like these are soul fragments that are frozen in time, repeating a loop from a trauma that happened in an actual lifetime you had. And so in the underworld, and in your underworld, it's playing out as you going after and slaughtering the people that you feel are responsible, or they don't even have to be people, they could be anything that you feel is responsible, and then repeating the same thing over and over and over on repeat. So there's really this energy of what's really fucking crazy that I'm getting here with this butterfly totem. Because normally when I see the butterfly as a shadow totem, I think of somebody that's like resistant to change. But what I'm getting is you guys are more so stuck in a short life cycle loop. Like you guys have these hell loops in the underworld that you're just repeating. This could be coming out in your waking life or your physical reality as feeling as though you never have like justice for anything that's happened to you in your current lifetime. And for those of you that are aware of some of your other lifetimes, like maybe you have, you've been able to pick up on some of your quote unquote past lives, or just other dimensions of yourself, and you're somewhat aware that you have these type of lifetimes where this shit was done to you, right? For some of you, these loops that you're stuck in They're not reflections of the lifetime itself. They're these fantasy realities that you created and then you got stuck into obsessing over vengeance from what did happen because you didn't get justice. Others of you, you literally went on a rampage in those actual lifetimes and you repeat that. Either way, there's this energy of feeling like it's never enough. No matter how much or how little you feel vindicated, it's never enough. So I feel like this has a lot to do with betrayal from those closest to you, lovers, friends. Maybe even their betrayal led to your death in other lifetimes for some of you. Definitely led to you feeling a complete loss of who you were. Definitely led to soul fragments for sure, or we wouldn't be seeing these things playing out in the underworld. Now, if you're not a woman in this lifetime, maybe you're a woman in those lifetimes, or maybe the women for you, if you're a man, maybe the women showing up for you has more to do with like your inner feminine aspect that's being suppressed because maybe you've been mistreated. Because I'm getting like, if you're a man, what I'm getting is you might have grown up in a very abusive home where you weren't allowed to be a kid and you weren't really allowed to show any inference or any just small amount of vulnerability or femininity. And even if you weren't physically abused, it could have been emotional abuse, it could have been total neglect, it could have just been this energy where you didn't feel safe to express any vulnerable part of yourself. Or you might have been ridiculed for it. I'm getting orphan energy for some of you. Some of you grew up, like in a foster care home, or some of you might have even like left foster care places and ended up on the streets for a while, and then maybe you joined the military, or you joined some sort of group of people, maybe it was like a gang or something. I'm just getting like this energy of some of you, for the men that chose this pile, this might have been the case. It doesn't have to be, okay? This is a general reading, so take what resonates and leave the rest. But there is this obsession with revenge in your shadow, whether you're aware of it or not, or maybe you feel like it's something that you have overcome. Maybe it's something that you have partially healed, but there's definitely soul fragments that are repeating this in the underworld for you guys, okay? This card right here, again, is like a fixation. And what's interesting is I see this as representing the full moon. So it's like there's this fixation on the wrongs being illuminated. Okay, so for some of you, maybe this manifests in your 3D physical waking life as you wanting to point out when things are done against you, or when you see a perceived wrong, even if it has nothing to do with you. Maybe you go out of your way to like point the shit out. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you don't want anyone getting away with anything. This may also manifest as you being overly concerned with the concept of justice and fairness, and may feel very frustrated or angry when people don't live up to that expectation. So these are all things that I would definitely look into. I really believe, and I was actually going to talk about this in depth today on Patreon. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I actually had a discussion with a friend recently that, we were talking about this concept of how whatever it is that you overcome that are traumas or shadow aspects when you're younger, these can become, if you heal this shit, it can become like a superpower. It can become something that, and I've talked about this on Patreon too, about channeling like those energies and those hurts and those anchors and stuff into something productive. I have touched on how there's shadow and light aspects to everything, and even light aspects to shadow aspects, in that things that we think are maybe just our shadow aspects actually have their own power. But I'm going to go more in depth into that on Patreon, but depending on the tier that those folks are in. But that's neither here nor there, like a sidebar. But there is this energy of, if you heal this, it could make you a very forgiving person, a very fair person, because that is your superpower, fairness, but not obsessed with vindication. That's the shadow side of that. And I'm not saying that vindication and vengeance and justice are not warranted, But when it becomes an obsession and it's got, you know, aspects of you locked in cycles in your underworld, and it's causing these patterns in your life that are, you know, causing like disharmony, okay, or making you feel like constantly victimized, or like you're in a constant survival mode, because that's what I feel like in general, that's how it's manifesting. Or like you constantly have to up and leave situations, you constantly have to transform. There could be like some 8th house placement shit going on here. Saturn, like, I'm getting like heavy 12th house and 8th house energy here too. Okay. So some of you might have some really intense 8th house or 12th house placements, maybe some really intense Saturn placements or Chiron placements, or even Black Moon Lilith. So there's this energy of needing to like accept these parts of yourself and needing to dig into like, where is this coming from? What is the root of this? Freeing these soul fragments. I actually teach on Patreon, and you know, in the when you get to advanced shadow work, how to actually free soul fragments, you know, and ancestors out of, you know, trauma loops or hell loops. So definitely check that out. That's something that you feel you need. I can also help you do that in a one-on-one session if you feel more comfortable doing it that way too. But either way, this definitely needs to be addressed. And then here with the Emperor, the 10 of Pentacles, and the Empress in reverse, there's this hyper-masculine energy coming through. And whether you're a man or a woman, that's kind of what I'm seeing. The feminine aspect has been wounded. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. And the masculine is taking over. You might even be somebody that is throwing yourself into work, that is throwing yourself into creating a legacy, creating an inheritance, building a life for yourself. I'm almost getting like the life you built for yourself is like a fortress, so that nobody can hurt you and you were completely secured. Getting heavy Capricorn energy coming through here too all of a sudden, but lots of Saturn energy as well, as we Capricorn, Scorpio coming through. So while yes, you might have mastered that, it's like you're overcompensating for the fact that the feminine is wounded. So there needs to be some healing done with the feminine here. So whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. The inner feminine needs some attention, needs some healing. You need to go into your more receptive energy. If you've been having problems with conception or conceiving, if you're a man or a woman, there's something here having to do with that as well. It's somehow linked to this. Maybe there was like a huge violation of rape, or maybe like your child was stolen from you in another lifetime, or even this lifetime, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, you could have like lost a custody battle or something. There could have been rape. There could have been somebody not giving you the option of having, you know, an abortion, or conversely a forced abortion. There could have been miscarriages. There's also some other additional trauma going on here, which might be affecting you guys' ability to conceive, whether you're a man or a woman. So if you're a man, it could be that maybe like your swimmers aren't swimming the way they could, you know, or there's something going on there. Maybe even you might have a hard time getting an erection. I don't want to like use too much of this language, guys, because I don't have this marked 18 plus, but in a nutshell, you know, and if you're a woman, it could be like manifesting and having some sort of, you know, hormonal imbalance, or some sort of like disorder, or maybe like endometriosis or something like that, that might be preventing you from getting pregnant. And so the key to this is these other lifetimes, or if this kind of shit has happened in this lifetime for you, addressing and healing at that level. So I know this is kind of heavy, guys, but that's the point of this reading, is to point out the things that you may not know are in your underworld that need to be healed and addressed. And for you guys, it does have a lot to do with feeling scorn and needing revenge, and feeling like you have to be in your masculine energy all the time. So there's a need to heal the feminine, to retrieve those shadow fragments, to do that inner child healing work. Okay? So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I hope it helped identify some of these things. Definitely take what resonates and leave the rest, as this is a general reading. If you'd like to book a private reading with me, book an Underworld reading with me, or book one of my guided meditations, definitely hit me up on my website if you want to learn how to do this yourself. I do teach it on Patreon. Just want to let you guys know, if you've never worked with me before, I'm not really comfortable with generally booking like the guided meditations for soul fragment retrieval like right out the gate, because I like to make sure that you've done some shadow work first, as that is a little more advanced. So if you haven't worked with me before, definitely book my Underworld reading or join my Patreon and start from the foundational work up before we work together with that, because that is like more advanced type shadow work. And yes, I absolutely want you guys to be able to do that and learn how to do that. But there is, you know, there has to be caution exercise, because that is heavy duty work. So I like to start with an Underworld reading just to give, you know, you guys an idea of where to start on your journey specifically, or to give you guys some advice there. So yeah, anyway, thanks for tuning in. I also want to let you guys know that I do have the Ancestors Speak channeled messages reading that's available now as well, and it's only available till November 2nd. So I actually channel messages from passed on loved ones and other ancestors for guidance and things of that nature. So that's something you guys are interested in. I definitely recommend booking that sooner than later, because it's only available during this time every year. Thank you again for tuning in. I'm going to now go on to pile 2. Thanks, pile 1. Okay, those of you that chose pile 2 or the Firefly, let's get into your reading. Okay, pile 2. Starting from the left at the top, going down left to right and down. We have here a siren, summer solstice, excitement, playful, creating ripples. We have perchance to dream, 28. Might be significant. You guys are the number 10 or 2 or 8. We have turmoil. I'm going to get into this because this is funny. So just bear with me. I'm going to get into this because that is not actually a card that's in the deck. That is actually the description of the deck. But I was getting some bibliomancy, so I left it alone. Normally I would just take that out and reshuffle, but I left it alone. So it's there for a reason. We have the shadow totem as the Firefly. We have shocking. And then we have here in the tarot, 6 of Cups or Fornius, Temperance or Crashel, and the Hierophant or Orias. All right, and I will get into that at the end of the reading. This is really interesting reading to me, guys, because I'm getting a lot of interesting energies. I feel like this is my pile. I'm getting 2 separate core kind of messages coming through. This is my pile that has either done a lot of shadow work, okay, or I actually feel like it's more and or. So you'll know who you are. If you're somebody that's done a lot of shadow work, a lot of trauma healing, like you really dug into yourself, then you know I'm talking to you, okay? If you're somebody that's new to that journey or you haven't started yet, then you'll know the second message is the only message for you. Whereas if you have done this shadow work journey, both messages are for you, okay? So there is this need to revisit the inner child for those of you that have done a lot of shadow work. Like, this is a time to really focus on inner child healing. And this is also the case for those of you who have not, because I'm getting a lot of inner child healing coming through. There is this need to allow yourself to be excited, to be playful, to let yourself express yourself, okay? And let yourself dream and imagine. Now, I just got a specific message coming through. Some of you, when you were children, you were kind of dreamy and in your head a lot. You might have been like, you might have been like a Gemini, an Aquarius, or a Pisces. Or maybe you have some of those placements prominent somewhere in your chart. But either way, you were definitely the type of kid that used to daydream a lot, used to imagine. You did this as kind of an escape from reality for those of you that grew up in tumultuous homes. For those of you where it's like I'm getting like two different kind of split messages here. Some of you grew up in a very abusive home, okay, where you witnessed, for some of you, you witnessed like your father or your stepfather or your uncle or something beating like your mom, your stepmother, your aunt. for some of you, you were beaten, but I'm getting for most of you, like, you witnessed this happen. You weren't really the one touched, but there was always that fear of, are they going to come for me next? And also the fear of, are they going to, kill this person I care about? Or it was just like this terror, For those of you that didn't grow up in that kind of environment, you still grew up in an environment where there was a lot of critique. There was a lot of feeling like you had to walk on eggshells, or not really knowing. It was like a highly reactive environment. Like, you didn't really know when the hammer was going to fall or when the other shoe was going to drop. So even if shit was going good, you might be wondering, well, when is it not going to go good? So you developed this hyper vigilant sensitivity to these things, and it pulled you out of your head for some of you and into the physical realm, like in a very hyper vigilant PTSD type of way. For others of you, you escape deeper into your imagination to the point of almost having delusions, okay? Or like believing delusional reality. So there could be some of you here that might have been diagnosed with some sort of mental disorder at a young age, or maybe as a teenager, or even as an adult. Like, you might have like schizophrenia, schizotypal disorder, bipolar, borderline personality, dissociative identity disorder, things of that nature. You don't have to. That's kind of what I'm getting. There's definitely this energy of a lot of shit happening when you're a teenager. So some of you might have been kicked out of the house, or had to move abruptly, or leave abruptly. Maybe you like emancipated yourself. There's this energy of having to grow up too fast. For some of you, for others of you, some of you might have grown up like in homes where there was a divorce and you felt like you had to be different people in different locations. You had to kind of adapt to wherever you're at, or maybe you ended up in foster care. And this is also, if you felt drawn to pile 1, by the way, pile 2, go visit pile 1. So there could be some messages for you there. But if you were like in foster care, and you felt like you had to kind of adapt to each place to survive, there's that kind of energy too. There's an energy of being kind of traumatized by other people doing things. Like, you felt like you could not let your guard down. You felt like if you let your guard down, something would happen. Okay? I'm almost getting for some of you that you escaped into books. You told yourself stories. You drew a lot. You're an artist. There's this energy of maybe you hung out at school a lot. You had, you might have, depending on how old you are and the generation you came from, you might have like walked around with like headphones on a lot, where you're like kind of in your own world of music. You might have like kind of kept, I'm getting like this energy of keeping to yourself. Like, maybe you hung out in a library a lot, or you might have even like eaten lunch. Like, I'm getting like teenage vibes too. Maybe you ate lunch by yourself off in a corner somewhere, like on a hill somewhere. I'm getting like some sort of grassy knoll for some of you. Some of you like became very rebellious and you started doing criminal stuff at a pretty early age as well. And when I mean rebellious, I mean like, the typical rebellious teenager energy. Some of you got in fights. And I feel like for those of you that have been doing shadow work for a while, you've healed a lot of this. What still needs to be worked on is your overreaction to people. So, and I feel like this is also the case for those of you who maybe haven't done a lot of shadow work or haven't started your shadow work journey, but you gotta be mindful, catch your triggers about overreacting to people and taking everything personally, and also understanding and understanding the difference between hypervigilance and empathy, and between hypervigilance and intuition. Because some of you have gotten to the point where you were so traumatized as a child or a teenager and even into adulthood that you mistake hypervigilance for intuition, and you will assume that people are out to get you when they're not, because you're looking for it. You might look for facial cues. You might look for tone differences. You might just really be observant for that reason. And before I forget, I want to read this real quick. It says, turmoil. This deck contains, and then me hitting this and shaking it. I mean, that's how you guys felt growing up. You know, like you couldn't relax, you're always shaken up all the time. Like, you know. This deck contains the magic to deal with our inner struggles and how we deal with the changes of life around us. There are many times where we cannot control what happened to us. Life doesn't go well. Yet there are good times and there are bad times, and how we deal with the situation, that is the most important. Now listen, this is the part I wanted to focus on. If you cannot control the situation that is happening, you can control how you react. This is the lesson, pile 2. This is what you have to work on. So a lot of you have already done a lot of work, inner child work and healing, but this is what's left. It's observing those triggers and observing the overreaction, especially if you grew up around overreactive people. So there's this tendency to just go from 0 to 60 or jump to conclusions or get overly defensive or really dig your heels in or take everything personally, right? So I do want to touch on how some of you are going to be... I want to talk about the Firefly real quick too. So with the Firefly energy here, a Firefly lights... There's the light in the dark, okay? That is like your superpower, all right? You are somebody that illuminates the way for others, whether you do that consciously or unconsciously. You may be like a therapist, an art therapist, a healer. You might be a reader. You might be a counselor, a coach, a teacher. Like you don't have to be these things, but you're definitely somebody that has learned how to be a guide or a light or an inspiration to others. Okay? Now, one thing that's interesting, the message I'm getting is to not just be, when people touch a firefly, their fingers will glow, okay? And the firefly will get more dim. So there's this energy of being careful who you're sharing that light with, okay? So that was just kind of like a side message there. The lighter advice I have for you guys, aside from working on watching these triggers of overreaction, would be to also enjoy the things you enjoyed as a child or that you didn't get to enjoy as a child. Get into those type of hobbies, get into those type of things. Connect with people, with other people around you, like inner child to inner child. With the whole 6 of Cups energy here, starting things off, and the Temperance, and then the Hierophant, I'm really getting this energy that a lot of you might be reconnecting with childhood friends, reconnecting with soul family from other lifetimes that are going to like help you heal your inner child. Reconnecting with certain family members that you might have been estranged from. There's this energy of healing and reunion with family, with friends, with soul family. The Temperance is that this has to be dealt with very gently, with compassion for yourself and others, and understanding and being able to step back and take yourself out of the equation and not just let your triggers make assumptions and create problems in your relationships, because you absolutely went through fucked up shit, okay? And I am not excusing whatever was done to you or what you might have experienced, but what I am saying is, as an adult who has been trying to heal their inner child, or who needs to start working on inner child healing, you don't want to let these triggers that you have from the childhood wounds and adolescent wounds destroy and affect the relationship you have with other people. So there is this need to be mindful and to be gentle with yourself and others, and not just jump to conclusions. With the Hierophant here, there is this energy of stability. Maybe some of you have ran from any kind of authority or stability. And so there's kind of this energy of you finally being able to really settle down and feel secure in your path in your life. Like, I feel like once a lot of you do this deeper inner child healing, you're going to feel more of a sense of stability, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So that's what I have for you guys, pile 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to book a private Underworld reading with me, you may do so on my website. I really recommend checking out my Patreon or booking my inner child healing guided meditation, or, you know, going through that meditation on your own on Patreon. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I want to let everybody know who's tuning in on this video that I am also offering for a limited time Ancestor Speak channeled messages reading that I offered last year. It's seasonal. I only offer it during this time. So it will expire on November 2nd. So if that's something you guys are interested in hearing from, you know, passed on loved ones and ancestors, definitely book that reading while it is still available. Thank you so much, pile 2. And I'm now going to move on to pile 3. Okay, those of you who chose the Earthworm Shadow Totem, or pile 3, let's get into your reading. Okay, pile 3. So this is your spread. We're going to start from left to right, top to bottom. We have here hydrothermal ventilation, stirring beneath, pressure, opposing forces. Then we have the Temple of My Body card with the number 2. Number 2 could be relevant to somebody. This image here, which I'll get into momentarily, we have the Earthworm Shadow Totem, of course. We have the Uncomfortable card. Then with the Tarot, we have the 4 of Cups, or Shax, 8 of Cups, or Vipar, and the 4 of Wands, or Person. Okay? So what I'm getting is that a lot of you have been going through a dark night of the soul for quite a while. And I feel like a lot of you are kind of in hermit mode right now, or you're about to be. Some of you are going through a divorce or a breakup. Some of you are coming out of an abusive romantic relationship, I'm getting. There is this energy of wanting to really withdraw for some of you. For others of you, this is more representative of a spiritual awakening, or a spiritual, like I said, dark night of the soul, where you kind of feel like you're just navigating this heaviness, this darkness, this, you know, the, you know, land of shadows or another world type energy, and you're wondering when it's going to end, when you're going to come out on the other side. And I don't feel like, for a lot of you, I don't feel like this is the first time this has happened. And I want to tell you that with the Earthworm as a shadow totem here, there is this energy of transmutation, not to be confused with transformation, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. With transmutation, you're transmuting the energies around you, and you are carving a way for yourself by transmuting what was meant to be an obstacle into something to work for you. And that's something that benefits others. So what earthworms literally do, they're blind and they're in the dark and they're deep underground, right? Not always that deep, but yeah. They're in the earth and they literally eat the dirt. They eat the dirt. And when they dispose of it, it is all enriched with all of these vitamins and minerals that help the soil and helps plant life grow. They're very good to have in gardens. They're very beneficial and necessary for Mother Earth. You know, without them, I don't know what we would do, right? So earthworms are extremely vital to the cycles of the earth, the cycles of plant life, the cycles of vegetation, the cycles of life, right? And I feel like you guys might underestimate your role in the world, because maybe your role is something that you don't quite see the bigger picture yet. Or maybe it's because you are sort of somebody that operates more in the background or behind the scenes, or not, you know, not seen. But your role is so vital, okay? You have to get comfortable with the uncomfortability. You have to get comfortable with going into your shadow and going into the underworld. You have to get comfortable with digging in, doing the inner work, going deep within your inner labyrinth, looking at the quote-unquote opposing forces that lie within you. There's this energy of needing to learn to love yourself and honor your body. Okay, so some of you might have body dysmorphia. Maybe you might have had eating disorders in the past or currently deal with that, or like your image. You might struggle with the idea of aging. You might struggle with the idea of your worth being attached to your physical appearance. So you might be somebody that is obsessed with how you look, and you might be one of those people that looks like you were airbrushed in a magazine. Or conversely, maybe you feel like, your physical appearance is nothing like the standard of beauty, and so you have real, issues with that. Either way, it's body dysmorphia, whether you are somebody that would be, quote unquote beautiful by societal standards or not. The body dysmorphia is the same. The trauma is the same. And the need for self-love is the same, right? Because neither person thinks of themselves as being good enough. Now, that may not be for everybody, but that's kind of what I'm getting. I'm getting that some of you are uncomfortable going into your own darkness. You may be the kind of people that prefer to stay surface and stay in the light. And here's what's ironic, Earthworm. That's not your path. Okay? At least not in this phase of your life. I'm almost getting this energy here of... It's like if a shadow being could be any more cute or cuddly. This is like the most cute and cuddly shadow card I think I've ever seen. It's just this energy of wanting to be loved, wanting to be adored, wanting to be cuddled, wanting to be held for who you are, wanting to be seen as beautiful, wanting to be seen at all. I feel like a lot of you don't feel seen. And that might literally be the case, or it just might be a projection that you have. I feel like a lot of you weren't seen maybe as children. A lot of you maybe don't feel seen as adults. Maybe you are extremely introverted. Okay? And it's interesting as I was sitting here. Some of you might feel uncomfortable in the shadows, and others of you might feel uncomfortable in the light. Meaning, for some of you, because I'm getting like there's like a lot of different people for this pile. Like the other piles, I felt like it was like pretty streamlined, either one message or like two distinct messages. For you guys, it's like, it feels like there's a lot of different people coming through, and so there's a lot of different messages. So this pile may be my pile where not all the messages are going to hit home, but the ones that do. You know what I'm saying? Because there's like vastly different people that have clicked on this pile. I feel like a lot of you have never done a day's worth of shadow work in your life. You never entered the underworld. You don't know what that is. Maybe you're a light worker. Maybe you're somebody that doesn't consider yourself to be a very spiritual person, and you just clicked on this out of curiosity or whatnot. Others of you, you're in like a dark night of the soul, like you've done spiritual work, or you're just now starting your spiritual work, or you're just now starting your spiritual journey. But either way, the advice I have for you guys is to work on loving yourself. Practice looking in a mirror and telling yourself you love you. First start by concentrating. And I talk about these types of templates and exercises on my Patreon in the Shadow Healing tier, Master tier, and Advanced Mystic tier. But concentrate on telling yourself you love you. Focus at first on the things you actually do love about yourself, and then focus on loving the things you don't. Owning the shit that you don't like about yourself, finding out why you don't like it. Where did it come from? Is it something you internalized, some standard put on you, or is it just some idea you have in your mind? Did somebody, critique you on that area, or make you feel bad about yourself? And then love that part of yourself. Okay? Be kind and be gentle to yourself. Don't overwork yourself and overwhelm yourself trying to match other people's expectations, is what I'm getting to. So there's definitely this energy of trying to be nice, trying to be cute and cuddly for some of you, or very quiet, or just not seen, stay in the background, right? with the Four of Cups and the Eight of Cups, and then ending with the Four of Wands, I do feel like a lot of you have recently gone through a breakup or a divorce. Especially if all the other shit isn't hitting home for you, I feel like that part will. You're walking away from something that doesn't serve you emotionally. Even if it's not a breakup or divorce, something doesn't serve you emotionally and you're walking away from it. Some of you might have even felt like you're in a stalemate, or like those people or that person or that event or that situation just didn't match your energy anymore, so you bounced. And I feel like this was good. This was like what kickstarted this new journey you're on, right? And we have here with the Four of Wands, it's going to lead to your dream life, your dream house, your stability, meeting the right person. I mean, this is like the card of long-term stability in a happy home, basically. It's also the 1111 card, so you might feel like if you subscribe to the concept of soulmates and twin flames, you may feel like you're going to meet that person, right? But either way, my recommendation is to work on self-love, to try to get comfortable going within and digging into your darkness and your shadow and being authentically you and not worrying about what other people are going to think and how they're going to handle it. If you want to speak up about something, speak up. If you want to do something, do something. If you want to be seen, be seen. Some of you might benefit working with a spirit that could help you with your confidence. So if that resonates, then and there's been like a certain type of spirit that's been showing up, like an ancestor, a guide, god, a goddess, a demon or angel or elemental or whatnot. I mean, please like vet out any spirits that approach you, but if you vetted this spirit out and you know for sure that they are who they say they are and you feel drawn to work with them and they could help you with your confidence and working in the underworld and healing, I would recommend doing that. I just came through for some specific people. But either way, embrace the journey, because, your superpower is definitely very vital. Your purpose is very vital, whether you see it yet or not. You're somebody that is going to pave the way for growth and healing and others just by being yourself. And it could be small things or big things. You might end up being somebody that helps out the environment literally, or helps other people literally, or it might just be that in being yourself and in you truly coming to terms with honoring who you are. You might also end up helping other people overcome body issues or overcoming issues with self-love and appearance, right? But whatever you end up doing, it starts with being able to accept yourself and go within yourself. So that's what I have for you, Pile 3. Thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely take what resonates and leave the rest. If you'd like to book a private Underworld reading with me, you can do that on my website. And if you'd like to check out my Patreon, I would recommend for you guys either the Shadow Healing tier, the Advanced Mystic tier, or the Master tier. But of course, go with what you feel intuitively drawn toward. And I want to also let everybody know one more time before I close out this video that I am now offering the Ancestors Speak channeled message reading. It's temporary. It is only going to be going on till November 2nd. So definitely check that out if you want to hear from passed on loved ones and ancestors and receive advice from them. Definitely check that out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.